Welcome to The Maintenance Mindset, an audio-video podcast brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network. I'm your host, Paul Rhodes, and over the more than 3 decades in the apartment industry, I've had roles that include being on-site, providing services as a vendor, creating and delivering multiple education programs, and active association work. This podcast is centered on the often overlooked role that our on-site maintenance workers play. You know, the men and women that respond in the middle of the night to the toilet call, or the after hours, it's really hot in my apartment request, or my favorite, my ring fell down the drain, get over here now. In other words, the often unsung heroes who are responsible for asset preservation and resident satisfaction. Working in multifamily maintenance provides interesting, sometimes amusing, and often fascinating stories and viewpoints. My encouragement to you is this: whatever you do it with a maintenance mindset. Hey there, everybody. This episode of The Maintenance Mindset, I would like to talk about Apartmentalize 2025. You know, last year we discussed the lack of content for maintenance personnel. And I gotta say, the National Apartment Association has repeated. There is some relevant information, but from what I could see looking at the schedule, there is only one session in the descriptors that is designed around information that can directly impact our maintenance teams and the way that they are performing the job of maintenance. Now, that's not to say that there's not other topics that are relevant for our maintenance teams. What I'm expressing here is that there is almost no direct, segregated, or specialized content on how to fix stuff, how to keep our equipment updated and our systems working, or new tools or innovations. But that's okay. I'm not looking to play the victim here or say that it should be. There are more and more educational opportunities in the future, one of which was very recently a fixed conference that I was lucky enough to be a part of the formation, or a consultant, I guess, if you will, about that. And I look forward to more opportunities like that going forward. Specifically for Apartmentalize 2025, though, there are reportedly, and I've got it written down here in some notes, there are reportedly 106 education sessions, a part of 18 tracks with 250 experts, speakers, presenters, facilitators, 12 sessions per individual time block that are happening. Combine that together with multiple vendor parties and networking opportunities, plus, might I add, one very awesome palooza that will be going on. Apartmentalize does have something for everybody. I thought it might be interesting to discuss how I'm thinking about navigating the conference. For those of you who are attending your very first Apartmentalize, the best piece of advice I can get is prioritize sleeping and rest and have a plan. With all of that going on, I strongly recommend that you download the app and maybe take some notes, highlight things that you want to see. The schedule is available at naahq.org, and look at it, study it. What I would propose is do something like what I've done. I have a list of a session for each time frame that is available that I'm interested right now and going to see. Now, this list is not completely exhausted, and it's not even written in pen. I mean, I wrote it digitally, so it's on my notepad, and it's the nice thing about a digital notepad is there's an erase button that lets me change it even easier than using pencil or pen. But what I thought would be interesting is to give you a glimpse into a strategy, and I would like to give a little bit of information that I want to bring back to my maintenance teams or bring back to the development of my on-site team as a whole. Because Apartmentalize, there's a huge amount of information. I mean, we're talking June 11th, 12th, and 13th of 2025. Those 3 days are going to be jam-cram packed full of stuff. So my week of Apartmentalize begins, I'm going to be training. I'm going to be out in Las Vegas all week long. So I will be doing some outside training events for my normal job. And then I get the opportunity. I'm honored to be a mentor this year for the 20 for 20 group. I will be attending that Tuesday afternoon. And then, of course, Tuesday night, the Palooza. I really hope to see you there. We'll have some really cool stuff going on. Now, Wednesday is when Apartmentalize actually gets kicked off, and it starts. The first education session that I'm aware of, and I know there's some stuff that's going on Wednesday morning. There's a couple of networking events and some vendor groups that I will be attending. The very first education session time frame is Wednesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And the first session that really caught my attention is a session called Flying in Formation, the Science of Creating Teams. And in this session, Dr. Debbie Phillips, Chikoria Connor, and Franco Milton are going to be talking about how to develop a team environment. This topic is particularly important for us as a maintenance department because it's my belief that we don't teach our maintenance team members, very particularly our on-site leaders, the job of being leaders of a team. And especially for the fact that anything Dr. Debbie Phillips is a part of will be amazing and brilliant. I'm not even sure what they're going to say, but I know it'll be awesome. And I will have a lot to take away to bring back to my properties and to the on-site groups. At 2:05, there is a session that is led by our Multifamily Media Network host, Susan Hobson, who's joined by Dustin Lacey and Tyler Marker, called Hindsight, Hiccups, and Hallelujahs: Keys to Avoiding Centralization Train Wrecks. If you are listening to the Turnover, the show that I get the opportunity to do with Mark Sharp and Chris Karamonica, you'll have picked up that we end up discussing a lot more off camera than we have the topic of centralization. And we're still trying to figure it out, what it means, how to implement it. And I'm really looking forward to that, to see what pieces I can bring back in centralization and how the information workflow is going to go, how to make things work, and possibly more importantly, learn from the things that didn't work so I can do my best to avoid those with my maintenance teams. At 3:10, there's a session called Press 1 for Human, Optimizing Employee Roles for an AI Future. This one has Jacob Carson and Allie Christ as the facilitators. And I have to admit, I don't know who they are, but AI is a topic that's not going away. I'm fascinated by it and very, I guess the best way to put it is hesitant about using this technology that is coming. It's here. It will happen. but I'm just very unsure. Uh, uh, I believe hesitantly optimistic is the best way of me to put it. Probably stressing more on the hesitant side than the optimism side. So I'm really looking forward to what what Jacob and Allie have to say about it. At 4:15, there's a general session speaker, which is where everybody at Apartmentalize comes together in the big room at the big stage. And this year, it's in addition to some other activities that they have going on, the main speaker is a gentleman by the name of Jay Shetty. And I have to admit, I don't know much about Mr. Shetty, but what I'm intrigued by is in the description for this session, it mentioned that he takes ancient wisdom and applies it to modern times today. I am very intrigued by that. As someone who is trying to pay attention and keep track of the newest, latest, greatest thing, it is important to remember what happened before that this new, latest, greatest thing is built upon. And especially at a place like Apartmentalize, which is full of people who are talking about and demonstrating the newest, latest, greatest whiz bang something or another, it is important to remember that the newest, latest, greatest thing is built on something that was started years and years and years ago. And we wouldn't have the newest thing if we don't pay attention to the lessons learned years ago. So I'm really curious about seeing that. After that Operation Wednesday, there will be times for networking and parties and all of the things. So I'll leave Wednesday night out for our discussion today. Thursday morning, it begins early at 8:30. And there's a session at 8:30 led by Leah Cuffey, Naomi Wolf, and Brian Zrimsek. I hope I said that right. The session is called the NAA Research Report. Community Managers Speak Out. Apparently, there was a survey that the National Apartment Association did specific to apartment property managers. And I want to know what it says. I'm curious as to what it revealed, especially because more and more with the application of technology for our property management systems, the community manager and the maintenance supervisor have got to be locked in as one complete team. And I think that there will be a lot of relevant information from that survey that can be applied to our maintenance team specifically. And even if there's not anything that gives a maintenance supervisor insight to the pains and the pleasant parts of being a community manager, has got to be a great amount of knowledge to have. At 10 a.m., the general session with Kevin Brown on business growth. And I read his bio, and the biggest thing is he's a franchise business grower to where he took ServPro to be a huge company. And I got to admit, I don't know what to expect out of that session. And you know what? I like it. I mean, I keep going back to the quote by Einstein of never losing a holy curiosity. And that's how I'm going to be approaching this. I really believe that there's going to be something I can bring back to my teams. I just don't know what it is. So after that, at 1:15, then of course the trade show opens. At 1:15, there's a session called What Are the Kids Talking About? Gen Z on Gen Z. They are, Gen Z is the largest demographic that we have entering our apartment homes. And I confess, with all this gray hair on my face and the continuing graying of the hair on my head, I'm losing touch with that cohort. I don't understand what motivates them. So I'm really looking forward to Brett Frank, Zeke Lucas, and Faith Verani to hear what I'm missing, because I have got to ensure that when I'm leading maintenance teams, that I'm meeting whatever those needs are. So I'm really looking forward to that one. At 2:15, there's a session that I confess I know a little bit about beforehand. And this is a session by Leah Brewer, Charlotte Pashota, and Susan Sherfield. It's called Passion versus Paycheck. What drives you? And drivers are fascinating as a topic to me, because that's what we use pay for, and bonuses and a place to live and a sense of well-being. And they're going to discuss, how important those things are. And by knowing that, how we can use that information to affect the way that we and our coworkers show up to work. I'm really excited to hear what they have to say. At 3:30, there is a session that I would, quite frankly, it's one of the reasons why I'm going. I get the opportunity to share the stage with the amazing Mary Gwynn, and we're doing a session called Maintenance RX, a prescription for your resident experience. Earlier this year, in the 20 for 20 report that Don Bevern did, that discussed the need to ensure that we have a good resident experience. We take a real life example that is continuing on. So this is a real life case study, and we look at how, as property owners and managers, we can solve some problems while recognizing the good things that we're doing. So that session is at 3:30 on Thursday. Now, at the same time is the one session which is directly for our on-site maintenance teams. And it's a topic that you've heard me talk about, and I will continue to talk about. It deals with the refrigerant updating, and it's called Chill Smarter: Navigating A2L Refrigerants in Multifamily. This session is put together by Nicole Curl, Mark Lepard, Boris Halstead, and Roger Remblake. And they're going to be talking about the impact that these changes in refrigerants have very specifically for the apartment industry as a whole. And you can't discuss that topic without getting into what the changes are going to be for our on-site teams. And in all honesty, some of those changes are large. The bulk of those changes will be minor, as long as we observe the pieces that are large in that topic. Now, Thursday night, if I remember correctly, that's when the big NAA party is. So don't stay up too late, friends, because Friday starts out early. Friday morning, this is Friday the 13th. Insert ominous music here. Dun, dun, dun. It begins at 9 o'clock. And there's a session at 9 a.m. that I'm very interested in called the Rental Magic 8 Ball: Predicting Renewals Based on Resident Activity. And regular listeners will be aware that I am particularly focused in on the role that maintenance plays in renewals. It is a huge budgetary consideration that if we can increase our renewals, we decrease our spend. It is directly inverse, and it has a huge impact. What this session purports to do is that it takes a look at the way residents behave and gives us some insight on how we can use that to predict whether or not residents will renew. This session is put on by Holly Beckman, Natalie Curriola, and Andrew Min. I'm really interested in this because if knowing how or paying attention to how often residents go to the gym can be a predictor on whether or not they renew, I don't see how that correlation can be made, but I'm not opposed to it. You've heard me say before that I firmly believe that you can tell how well a maintenance team operates just by looking at their swimming pool. So I firmly believe that there is correlation between behavior and activity. And I want to see how that works from the standpoint of renewals. At 10 a.m., I have reason number 2 to be attending the National Apartment Association Apartmentalize this year. I get the opportunity to share the stage with MMN's host, Ronald Harrington. And we're going to be doing a session entitled Soft Skills in Maintenance, a Competitive Edge. I firmly believe that one of the things that is completely off the table where maintenance training is concerned is teaching our maintenance people how to relate to our residents, how to deliver both good news and how to deliver bad news. I firmly believe that this can be a difference maker for our communities and very possibly could affect that all too important renewal number. At 10:45, there's a session called the NAA Survey, which is Maintenance Pain Points and Strategies. This session is got Michelle Childers and Chris Caramonica, one of the co-hosts of The Turnover, where they're going to be talking about a survey that was sent out to all of the National Apartment Association, trying to identify what are the biggest issues for our on-site maintenance teams so that we can begin to address them. I have my guess as to what it's going to say. I'm curious to see what those survey results are. At 11 a.m., is a session put together by Marcia French and Ishia Shepherd. And those are, it's called SOS, Service Over Stuff. And I'm expecting this to kind of continue what Ronald and I were talking about, in that service is more important. I'm guessing that this is how they're going to approach it. Service is more important than the actual apartment itself or the amenities or what the physical asset is and how we can affect that. Plus, Marcia French is brilliant, and I really enjoy when she shares her experiences and knowledge. At 12:15, which is the final education session block, there's a session that continues on that theme of younger generations. And this session is called They're Buying What You're Selling, Attracting Today's and Tomorrow's Renters. So, in other words, my read of this session description is that we're not actually looking at renewals. Here, we're looking at what attracts new renters to a property. And in this session, Ian Bingham, Arlene Mayfield, and Katie Nelson are going to discuss developing properties. And I would expect that it could even touch on changes we could make to our communities so that we become the attractive magnet for new residents, and how possibly give us some insight in how we can sell that to our potential renters. At 1:45, I can't say anything about what is going to happen. All I can say is a name: Simone Biles. Yeah, That's at 1:45, and she is the end speaker on Friday the 13th. If you are attending Apartmentalize, do yourself a favor and look for information to bring back to your apartment teams. I continue to be disappointed at the offerings for direct information for our on-site maintenance teams. I understand that having our maintenance teams be able to leave on site to go to a 3-day conference, which requires travel across the country, is a very challenging thing to occur. I also think that it's possible. If you're attending Apartmentalize and you have employees who are back at the site, take a moment and call them or bring back some information to them that can allow them to grow and further their career. Maybe they can pick up some information, like I talked about in one of the sessions, of what other people failed at or mistakes that happened, so that our current on-site teams can keep from making them. Thank you for spending your time with me today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. For those of us who will be at Apartmentalize, drink plenty of water and prioritize sleep. Thanks again, and I'll see you somewhere. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Maintenance Mindset. I hope you take away ideas that apply to your current and future career goals. Please check out Maintenance Mindset Minute to hear short-form, high-impact, applicable, maintenance-centered information. Whatever you do today, do it with a maintenance mindset. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, and subscribe. Visit multifamilymedianetwork.com to learn more about our other industry podcasts, thought pieces, and sponsorship opportunities. I'll see you somewhere.